Nightmon had appeared ready to fight if needed and told them to return to the digital world for judgment, and the police appeared trying to take them down, frightening Kulamon and making them create a barrier of crystals to protect himself and the other Digimon, as they were all inside of the large barrier with Nicole and Noir ready to fight the Digimon in the chrome Digizoid armor. Nicole asked Kuzahamon to take Kulamon because they were too scared to be a part of this, and his girlfriend nodded, taking the little Digimon as Nightmon opened up a portal to the digital world, saying that this was their last chance. Come to the digital world with them willingly or be destroyed. There and now in the name of Yggdrasil. Though Noir was the one to shoot him in the head next, answering their demand. Shadonekomon told Nightmon that they were going to be going back to the digital world, but it would be through them, not with them. And the Digimon in armor grew angry, swinging his sword at them, and Nicole dodged out of the way before shooting him in the head again, making them angry, demanding that they stop doing that. Though he told the knight they got a thick skull, they can handle it. Noir then shot him in the head next, with Nicole racing forward and knocking them up into the air with his Shada Enigma before using his guns to fire at the knight, rapidly keeping them in the air, but realized that it wasn't working and let them drop before jumping back, saying that Nightmon was too strong, and tried to reach the next level as both he and Kulamon began glowing again as before, and he digivolved into Holy Dratamon once more. The cops began to freak out seeing that, as Holy Dratamon stretched out and his wings extended outward, as he says that it feels good to stretch his wings again before flying up into the air and blasting Nightmon with his Drata Buster, actually doing damage this go around. Though Sistermon Noir continued to fight too, she was acting as the distraction as Nicole flew down with his sword and Nightmon barely had time to block with their own blade. The pressure from the two of them had knocked over the cop cars that were in the barrier, and Nicole looked serious with the Digimon working for Yggdrasil, saying that it would appear they are evenly matched. Though Holy Dratamon says they'd think so, wouldn't they? This confused the Nightmon, as Nicole then began turning his sword, making Nightmon's blade catch in between two of the blades as he continued twisting and making a crack appear before breaking the blade off completely. Nightmon got angry and pulled another sword, with Nicole flying back and putting his blade away, pulling out the Heaven shotgun called Duo and Cerberus, before blasting the sword, blowing off the top part of the blade as the Digimon sent by Yggdrasil got angry and tossed that one aside too and pulled the remaining blade, charging at Nicole, who flew up into the air out of the way. Flying down and pulling his sword again, Holy Dratamon jabbed his sword into the ground, stopping his upper body while the lower half kept going in the air, and used the momentum of his stop to kick them back into the wall of the barrier, making Nightmon draw out his giant shield to protect himself from Nicole, who flew into the air and made the cannon on his right arm jut out again, pointing it at Nightmon. Recognizing what he was doing, Kuzahamon and Sistermon Noir called out for the police to get everyone back immediately. Something big was about to happen, and they needed to clear the area, with Nicole putting the blades of his sword onto the cannon, looking through the holes in it, lining up his shot that was aimed squarely on Nightmon, who held up their shield at the ready for whatever was about to come. Holy Dratamon spoke calmly with a deadly gaze locked onto Nightmon, calling out, "Divine Wing Cannon," again as he scraped his sword along the barrel of the cannon, making sparks appear as he fired the energy from his weapon, and it came down at full force, cracking Nightmon's shield before busting it apart and vaporizing the armored Digimon working for Yggdrasil in the process. The force of the impact caused all the vehicles to be toppled over to their side and blown back, with the windows around them all busting apart from the pressure of the wind. Kulamon's barrier had also cracked as well before shattering a bit at the impact point, and Nicole absorbed Nightmon's data as the portal to the digital world was starting to close. Sistermon Noir called out that this could be their only chance and raced towards the portal, as did Kuzahamon with Holy Dratamon right behind them, though he did stop for a moment and looked at his mom and sister, telling them that this is something he has to do, with the two nodding, and then flew into the portal as well, with it closing behind them and Kulamon's barrier vanishing into thin air. They were returned to the digital world, but looked around confused as to where they were since none of them recognized it, and began to have a look around, finding that wherever they were, it appeared to be abandoned, as all the buildings around them were decrepit and vines and other plants had slowly overtaken them, though they soon found what looked like a fountain, maybe? Walking over to it, Holy Draudamon reverted back to his human form and pulled the vines and stuff off of the fountain, with Kuzuhamon putting her hand over her mouth and looking upset seeing the statue on the fountain. Sister Mon Noir asked what was wrong, but the fox-masked Digimon then said that it was her father, Ostamon. This is, or was, her home when she was growing up. This place was deserted now after her father's passing. He was a great man. A voice spoke up saying, not completely deserted, as they turned to see a blue tiger-like Digimon that had rust-colored armor, which Kuzuhamon recognized and began crying seeing them, and called them Dino Tigermon. The Digimon walked over, and Kuzuhamon cried, hugging them, glad to see them again. She'd called them her uncle, and they used one of their large front paws to hug her back, letting them get it out of their system.